Thor Ragnarok is about to hit theaters, and we're recapping everything you need to know before seeing the magic Viking abs of Chris Hemsworth in a new film. First of all, the Norse gods of legend are actually real, except they're from another planet, so they're more like Space Vikings. So the Space Vikings live on a planet called Asgard, and they travel to 8 other planets with a machine called the Bifrost. The planets are called Asgard, Jotunheim, Midgard, which is Earth, Vanaheim, Svartalfheim. 1,000 years ago, frost giants from planet Jotunheim tried to conquer Earth with a magic ice cube that freezes stuff. The Asgardians stopped them and then locked their magic ice cube in their basement. So here's all the important Asgardians to know. Odin is king of Asgard, Frigga is the queen, and they have 2 sons, Loki and Thor. Thor has always been the favored son, and Loki's had to work harder to get affection, kind of like Peyton and Eli Manning. Odin wants Thor to be king, but Loki thinks that's a terrible idea and wants the throne for himself. Frost giants interrupt Thor's coronation to steal back their magic ice cube, but they're killed by a fire-breathing robot called the Destroyer. Obviously, Thor is upset the Frost giants ruined his big day and convinces his brother and friends, Lady Sif and the Warriors 3, to Leroy Jenkins their way into Jotunheim and smash stuff. The guardian of the Bifrost is a guy named Heimdall. He lets them pass, but warns them that if he leaves the gate open too long, it will destroy Jotunheim. So, maybe retain that information for later.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if this is gonna pay off later on.
So Thor and his friends are quickly overwhelmed, and just when the giants are about to win, Odin saves them. Odin is so angry, he takes away Thor's hammer and exiles him to Earth. This is how Space Vikings ground their kids, by taking away their toys and sending them to our planet. So Thor no longer has his powers, and he lands in the desert where he's found by a scientist named Jane Foster. She and her team, a scientist named Eric Selvig and an intern named Darcy, are studying wormholes. They deduce that Thor came out of the magic sky hole and look after him. His hammer landed outside of a small town, and the most realistic part of this movie is that every redneck within spitting distance tries to move it. Boys, I'll tell you what, they said they got this magic hammer out on Dirt Rock Holler. Hold my beer and I'll lift that son of a gun. And the fun is ruined when the government agency S.H.I.E.L.D. builds a base around the hammer. Dang big government. So back in Asgard's basement, Odin tells Loki that he's really the child of the frost giant king Laufey. They have a big fight, and Odin takes a magic nap called the Odin Sleep. Not to be confused with another deep nap, the Kitty Sleep. Aww. Loki is now acting king and refuses to allow Thor to come home. So back on Earth, Thor integrates with the locals.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
He fights off some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but finds he can no longer lift his hammer. Loki visits and tells him that Odin's dead and his mom doesn't want to see him anymore. S.H.I.E.L.D. releases Thor, and later he and Jane sit on a roof and start to catch feelings. Lady Sif and the Warriors 3 suspect Loki let the Frost Giants into Asgard, and they sneak off to Earth to find their friend. Loki sends the Destroyer robot to kill Thor. When Thor sacrifices himself, the hammer decides that he's worthy, his powers return, he beats the Destroyer, and returns to Asgard. Loki fires up the Bifrost to destroy Jotunheim. And then Thor is given an impossible choice, to choose between never again seeing Jane, a woman he's known for only a week, or preventing genocide. He actually takes a minute to think this over. Thor destroys the Bifrost, Odin shows up, rejects Loki, and he falls into a Pink Floyd poster. In the post-credits scene, S.H.I.E.L.D. recruits Eric Selvig to work on the Tesseract, and we see that Loki is controlling him. Wait, stop. What is the Tesseract? The Tesseract is a powerful object from space that allows users to teleport. By the time the Avengers starts, superheroes are walking the Earth. There's the super soldier, Captain America, Iron Man, and the Hulk. Let's talk about the Hulk, briefly, because this isn't his recap, but he has a big role in Thor Ragnarok. The Hulk is a scientist, Bruce Banner, who, in the words of Tony Stark,
I'm a huge fan of the way you lose control and turn into an enormous green rage monster.
Also, maybe he can control the Hulk? Kind of. The movies are never clear on how much control Banner has over the Hulk, so just go with it. This guy turns into this guy, and sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he just smashes stuff randomly. Don't think too hard. Now, on to the Avengers. Loki uses a magic staff to mind control Eric Selvig. He steals the Tesseract, and S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury recruits superheroes to save the world and make Disney lots and lots of money. Loki is apprehended by Iron Man and Captain America. All goes well until Thor shows up to take Loki and the Tesseract back to Asgard. The brothers have a little heart-to-heart where Loki admits that he only wants to conquer Earth to win their dad's approval. So basically, none of this would have happened if Odin would have hugged his kid. Oh yeah, and by the way, don't worry about Jane. S.H.I.E.L.D. put her on an island. Also in the Avengers, Thor has a new sleeveless costume to show off his guns, and a lot of women in the Marvel Universe noticed.
I don't think Thor's technically a god.
Well, you haven't been near his arms.
And Helen, I expect to see you at the party on Saturday.
Will Thor be there?
Wouldn't mind getting my human hands on Thor. He's so dreamy.
Sure, he's handsome, but...
No, he's dreamy.
Loki opens a portal in the heart of Manhattan. Aliens pour out, and Thor and the other heroes unite to fight them off. And it's pretty great. It's pretty great. I love this movie. The Hulk beats up Loki while Selvig overcomes the mind control and closes the portal. Afterwards, Loki is arrested and taken back to Asgard. The Avengers are formed and afterwards eat some shawarma. Thor: The Dark World begins with another prologue.
Thousands of years ago, when the 9 realms converged, the dark elf Malekith tried to end existence using the ether, which controls all of reality and kind of looks like Kool-Aid. It's very important to know that this guy can only use the magic Kool-Aid to destroy the universe when all of these planets are aligned. That's good information for later.
After the Bifrost was broken and Thor won, the 9 realms fell into chaos and Thor is off restoring order. He straight up murders this rock guy, who I hope wasn't related to this other rock guy in Thor Ragnarok, because that'll be an awkward conversation when they meet. Back on Earth, Jane investigates a warehouse where gravity's going crazy. Not that, that's the Midnight City video. This is from Thor: The Dark World. Jane slips through a portal and the ether finds her and bonds to her against her will. In that way, ether is very much like space glitter. Heimdall sees that something's wrong with Jane and Thor brings her back to Asgard. They realize the ether is feeding off of her like a cosmic-powered tapeworm. But Jane and Thor chill out in Asgard and he explains the convergence by holding hands. Flirting by explaining science. I've seen that one before. And it's better than the way this guy explained things.
I don't like sand.
By the way, Natalie Portman was way more into one of these kisses than the other. Elsewhere, Malekith wakes up and he wants to get the ether for himself. He sends one of his soldiers, Curse, but spelled with a K, to infiltrate Asgard and drop their shield generator so they can send their ships through.
I'm very familiar about all this.
Frigga kicks Malekith's ass, but she's ambushed by Curse with a K and killed. R.I.P. Frigga. Afterwards, she gets a space Viking funeral where they send her off the edge of the world? So I guess that means that pre-Columbian thinking was correct and some planets are flat. Great, space Vikings. Anyways, Malekith is drawn toward the ether, so Thor sneaks Jane off of Asgard. He gets help from Loki, who's not handling his mother's death well. The three of them go to planets Svartalfheim. Thor's plan is to let Malekith draw away the ether from Jane so it'll be exposed and they can destroy it.
Not a great plan.
Malekith arrives and Loki betrays Thor and cuts off his hand. What? Oh, psych. All part of the plan. Malekith draws out the ether and Thor strikes it with lightning. Too bad it can't be destroyed and Malekith takes it away. Like I said,
Not a great plan.
Loki saves Thor's life, but Curse with a K kills him. R.I.P. Loki. Jane and Thor find a portal back to Earth and he's reunited with all of his science friends. Eric Selvig's going kind of insane.
I've had a god in my brain.
And he's been running around naked at Stonehenge.
We're good! Streaky! Yes!
Malekith brings his giant death ship to Earth, but for some reason the Avengers are too busy to help. So portals open between worlds, there's all sorts of hilarious hijinks, and Thor ends up on the subway. And this scene's pretty funny, but it's still only the second best scene of a Marvel character on a train. Thor's science friends put up a bunch of poles that teleport Malekith to another planet where he's crushed by a ship. Thor turns down the throne of Asgard and then returns to Earth to make out with Jane. But it turns out that Loki was actually posing as Odin. What? So where's Odin? I guess we gotta wait till the next movie to find out. Alright, Doctor Strange. I'm going to quickly go over this because he plays a small part in Ragnarok. Doctor Strange is a sorcerer who protects Earth from extra-dimensional threats. He fights them on Earth and inside blacklight posters. He lives in New York City in Greenwich Village, and he does magic and such. That's really all you need to know before watching Ragnarok. Oh, and he has the superpower to make beer appear from nowhere, so he and Tony Stark should never hang out. And now, on to the Avengers, Age of Ultron. Thor is back with the Avengers, busting up bad guys in an opening scene that reminds me a lot of the opening credits of G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe! G.I. Joe is there!
An evil army called Hydra has Loki's mind control scepter, and the Avengers are fighting to take it back. Later, Tony Stark uses it to create Ultron, an artificial intelligence that becomes sentient and wants to destroy humanity.
I'm very familiar about all this.
The Hulk goes on a rampage and nearly destroys a city. So now, Bruce Banner's afraid of becoming the Hulk. Look, I gotta be honest, Thor doesn't do a lot in this movie. He spends the entire middle act in a magic hot tub having weird visions that look like a PG-13 Eyes Wide Shut. He does shoot lightning from his chest, which could foreshadow this new ability he has in Thor Ragnarok. Later, he reunites with the Avengers to defeat Ultron's evil robot army. Oh, but where's Jane?
I'm not even sure what country Jane's in.
Great, so don't worry about Jane. At the end of the movie, the Hulk ends up on a tiny jet, but decides the world is better off if he goes into hiding again. We don't know how, but he ends up in space for the next Thor movie. Thor goes back into space to figure out why so many Infinity Stones have surfaced in the past few years. Alright guys, I'm really excited for Thor Ragnarok, and I hope you are too. Let us know in the comments what you thought, if there's anything we left out. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.